Hello, this is Shmuel Moshe, and you are listening to the Weekly Parashahcast, the weekly Torah portion podcast where I read the weekly Torah portion and then provide my own interpretation based on my understanding of the text. This week's Torah portion falls on the 30th of Sivan, 5784, July 6th, 2024, and this week's portion is Parashat Korach. As always, you can follow along via Chabad.org in English. Let's go ahead and begin with the first portion, Bamidbar chapter 16, verse 1. Korach, the son of Ishar, the son of Kohat, the son of Levi, took himself to one side along with Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelet, descendants of Reuben. They confronted Moses together with 250 men from the children of Israel, chieftains of the congregation, representatives of the assembly, men of repute. They assembled against Moses and Aaron, and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves. For the entire congregation are all holy, and the Lord is in their midst. So why do you raise yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" Moses heard and fell on his face. He spoke to Korach and to all his company, saying, "In the morning the Lord will make known who is his, and who is holy, and he will draw them near to him. And the one he chooses he will draw near to him. Do this, Korach and his company. Take for yourself censers. Place fire into them, and put incense upon them before the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord chooses, he is the Holy One. You have taken too much upon yourselves, sons of Levi." Moses said to Korach, "Please listen, sons of Levi. Is it not enough that the God of Israel has distinguished you from the congregation of Israel to draw you near to him, to perform in the service of the Mishkan of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to minister them? He drew you near, and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you, and now you seek the kehunah as well? Therefore, you and your entire company who are assembled are against the Lord, for what is Aaron that you should complain against him?" Moses sent to call Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they said, "We will not go up. Is it not enough that you have brought us out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the desert, that you should also exercise authority over us?" All right, so that's the end of the first portion. So we're dealing with a mutiny. This is a rebellion. The people assembling with Korach, who is a son of Levi. So he is of the tribe of Levi along with Moses and the others, but he is not of the holiest of priests. And he's basically saying, what's up with that? Why is it that you and Aaron are so special? Why are you lorded over the rest of us? What right do you think you have to be so much greater than we are? Are we not all holy because God is among us? And so he also has from the tribe of Reuben some individuals. I think the significance of this here being that Reuben is the firstborn of the original 12. And so that may be the rationale for part of that. But also, the tribe of Reuben, I believe, may have also been part of the vanguard, but I'm not 100% sure if they were up in the front row. I think the tribe of Judah may have been. We'd have to go back. Either way, the point is, a large number of people are gathered together, and they're rebelling. Why? Because after journeying across the desert and leaving Egypt behind, they get to the land, and now God is basically telling them, "Yeah, I'm not letting you in. Turn back around and go back into the desert." And so now that they've already been told by Moses that you're not going, they're now saying, "Who are you that you've brought us here? Now you've turned us around. We are rebelling. We think that you've taken way too much authority, that you are corrupt for lording yourself over us, and we demand that we do something about it." And so Moses very quickly, first he falls on his face, which is an expression used quite often. But essentially, what essentially here is going on is that Moses comes up with an idea. He says, "Okay, I don't know what your problem is, why you're going to take it out on my brother, but if you're not content with already being a holy class of people who do the entire ministering, then why don't you come up here and we'll do a little test, and we'll let God clearly declare who he's chosen." And additionally, when he calls to two of the individuals, to Datan and Abiram, he basically said, Moses says, "Why don't you come on up here and why don't you come personally do this whole thing?" And those guys basically say, "No, we're not going. You can't call us up. Why should we come to you? Isn't it bad enough that you've already taken us away from the thing that we were promised, the land of milk and honey? Now you're going to take us to kill in the desert? why should we go with you? Why should we listen to you? So it's definitely a very high moment of stress. This is definitely something also that has been kind of building up now that things have gotten bad for the congregation. Now we're moving on to the second portion, chapter 16, verse 14 of Numbers. You have not even brought us to a land flowing with milk and honey, nor have you given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Even if you gouge out the eyes of those men, we will not go up. Moses was exceedingly distressed, and he said to the Lord, Do not accept their offering. I have not taken a donkey from a single one of them, and I have not harmed a single one of them. Moses said to Korach, You and your entire congregation should be before the Lord, you, they, and Aaron tomorrow. Let each man take his censer and place incense upon it, and let each man present his censer before the Lord. There will thus be 250 censers, and let you and Aaron each take his censer. So each man took his censer, and they put fire upon it, and placed incense upon it, and they stood at the entrance to the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Korach assembled all the congregation against them at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord appeared before the entire congregation. All right, so that's the end of the second portion. A pretty brief one, but this is immediately following the first few words coming from Datan and Abiram. So they already were saying, isn't it bad enough that you've brought us to the edge of the land and not even brought us into it, that you are leading over us? And then they immediately continue, you've not given us a land of milk and honey, you've not given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards, and even if you were to gouge out the eyes of those people, basically they're saying, even on pain of death, we're not going to go. And so Moses, in response to this, his entire distress really comes from the fact that he has done nothing but give, and he's certainly not done anything harmful to anyone. In fact, with all the things he's been subjected to through these people, if anybody should be complaining, it's him, and he's done so a couple of times, but ultimately still always went to bat for the people. So now he's just confused. He's saying, have I not done enough for these people? Or more importantly, have I not been good to them that now they're doing this to me? So, in any case, he provides them with a solution. Come tomorrow, you're going to present fire, and that way you'll know, because there's already a precedent here. It's been established that only the chosen of the line of Aaron are the ones supposed to do such a thing. But even more than that, we saw an instance of what happens when someone makes an unwelcome fire, as what happened to Aaron's first two sons in an earlier portion. So there's definitely something brewing here, and it's going to be a rather definitive verdict once we get the actual answer. So in any case, after dealing with the guys who refuse to cooperate, Moses provides this solution, and now the congregation comes to make this grand presentation before the Lord with the incense. Now for the third portion, chapter 16, verse 20. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Dissociate yourselves from this congregation, and I will consume them in an instant. They fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, if one man sins, shall you be angry with the whole congregation? The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation, saying, Withdraw from the dwelling of Korach, Datan, and Abiram. Moses arose and went to Datan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He spoke to the congregation, saying, Please get away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything of theirs, lest you perish because of all their sins. So they withdrew from around the dwelling of Korach, Datan, and Abiram. And Datan and Abiram went out standing upright at their entrance of the tents, with their wives, their children, and their infants. Moses said, With this you shall know that the Lord sent me to do all these deeds, for I did not devise them myself. If these men die, as all men die, and the fate of all men will be visited upon them, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a creation, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them, and all that is theirs, and they descend alive into the grave, you will know that these men have provoked the Lord. As soon as he finished speaking all these words, the earth beneath them split open. The earth beneath them opened its mouth and swallowed them and their houses, and all the men who were with Korach and all the property. They and all they possessed descended alive into the grave. The earth covered them up, and they were lost to the assembly. All Israel who were around them fled from their cries, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up too. A fire came forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who had offered up the incense. Chapter 17, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Say to Eleazar the son of Aaron the Cohen that he should pick up the censers from the burned area, but throw the fire away, because they have become sanctified. The censers of these who sinned at the cost of their lives, and they shall make them into flattened out plates as an overlay for the altar. For they brought them before the Lord, and have therefore become sanctified, and they shall be as a reminder for the children of Israel. So Eleazar the Cohen took the copper censers which the fire victims had brought, and they hammered them out as an overlay for the altar, as a reminder for the children of Israel, so that no outsider who is not of the seed of Aaron shall approach to burn incense before the Lord, so as not to be like Korach and his company, as the Lord spoke regarding him through the hand of Moses. The following day the entire congregation of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the people of the Lord." It came to pass, while the congregation were assembled against Moses and Aaron, that they turned to the tent of meeting, and behold, the cloud had covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting. All right, so that's the end of the third portion. Quite a bit to cover here. So first and foremost, a warning from Moses and Aaron saying to everybody who's around the individuals behind this rebellion, get away from them, completely dissociate from them, don't even touch anything that belongs to them, because otherwise you don't want to risk that the punishment that's coming for them will also fall upon you. And so what also happens here is right before that, the Lord actually gives a warning before Moses vouches for these people. He says that, get away from that congregation and I'm going to destroy them in an instant. I will consume them in an instant. And Moses and Aaron both actually stop this from happening. And they plea and they desperately say, if one man sins, shall you be angry with the whole congregation? And so that is why the Lord gives them this out to say, tell them they can get away from the rebels that are in charge and they will not perish because of them. So they do so, and as the people are withdrawing, the individuals who are behind the rebellion all come out of their tents and they stand upright. So they're basically standing proud in response to what's going on. They're not backing down. They stand upright, and they do so with their entire families and all they own, even the children. So from there, Moses then begins reciting the words, and he says, from what's about to happen, you will know that I am the one who's been assigned this commission. When you die, if you die a normal death, like all men do, you perishing, as death visits all, then we know that I'm not really the chosen person to do this job. But if you do not die that way, if you descend into the earth still living, then you know that the Lord directly has taken action upon this situation to affirm, I'm the guy. As soon as he finishes speaking the words, the earth opens up and swallows all these people alive. And again, that's the significance of it, how suddenly this happens. From what I've heard, there are only two instances or three where someone invokes a prayer that happens before the prayer is even finished. So this is the urgency of it happening immediately as soon as he's done speaking really speaks to the validity of this particular statement. Almost as if he was casting a spell, except it's not a spell, it's coming directly from the actions of the Lord in response to what his servant Moses is saying. So all these people are completely consumed by the earth and gone. And then this leads to the people now who are freaking out because they realize, oh no, we're next. They're running for their lives, ignoring the cries of the people who've been swallowed by the earth. And then the people who made a fire offering, the 250 who made that offering, they are suddenly consumed by fire as well. And so what's interesting, I mentioned this before, this happened to Aaron's two sons when they made what's called an alien fire, a fire that was not requested by the Lord because they were attempting to be like their father prematurely, and they were also consumed in the fire. So this is pretty par for the course, and honestly, they should have known better. After what happened to the two sons of Aaron, they should have known that they were walking into a situation they were not going to walk away from. But nonetheless, this is just typical miscreant behavior from the Holy Congregation because they just never can seem to control themselves. Nonetheless, we are then told the Lord instructs Moses to tell Eleazar, one of Aaron's sons, that he should take the censers. So these are essentially, from what I can assume, a censer meaning where the incense would be held. And for the people who made that offering, even though they sinned in doing so, by the fire of the Lord consuming them, the entire censer itself became sanctified. So because it was involved in something so holy, because the Lord directly was in contact with it, this sin at the cost of their lives, right? So these objects that they brought with them will be hammered out and actually turned into plates that will be stored with the other holy artifacts, which can then be used as a point of reference for anybody else who ever gets any funny ideas. You'll remember what happened during the rebellion of Korach. But also, again, because these things were touched by the fire of the Lord, they have become sanctified through that holy fire, through that holy presence, and so that's another reason they can't simply be thrown away. As has been mentioned several times, when things become sanctified, whether it's an offering or otherwise, there's no going back. So that is another reason it had to be held on to. Now, at this point, once people have now settled in, the calamity is over, they now turn to Moses and Aaron once again, and they say, "You have killed the people of the Lord." And remember, these are Levites, a lot of them who had been killed, right? They were with Korach. Not all of them, but people of the Lord, even just people of the congregation as a whole. So now they're, once again, they're basically saying, Moses, you were behind what just happened. This is your fault. And so now, as this is happening, the cloud descends and covers the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord appears. And now Moses and Aaron are basically moving to the front, sort of getting between them and the people. Now on to the fourth portion, chapter 17, verse 9 of Numbers. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Stand aside from this congregation, and I shall consume them in an instant." They fell on their faces. Moses said to Aaron, "Take the censer and put fire from the altar top into it, and put incense. Then take it quickly to the congregation and atone for them, for wrath has gone forth from the Lord, and the plague has begun." Aaron took it just as Moses had said, and he ran into the midst of the assembly, and behold, the plague had begun among the people. He placed the incense on it and atoned for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague ceased. The number of dead in the plague was 14,700, besides those who died because of the matter of Korach. Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the plague was checked. All right, so a very brief portion. Once again, that's the end of the fourth portion. So as the congregation is accusing Moses and Aaron, the Lord is not having any of it. And so without Moses making a request or anything like that, it immediately begins. The Lord says, "Stand aside and I shall consume them." And Moses realizes, oh my goodness, this is language that means it's already happening. And so he immediately looks to Aaron and he says, "This is the only way we can stop it. You have to go and atone for their sins." And so taking the offering and everything, Aaron dashes into the crowd, and sure enough, just as Moses had suggested, the plague had already been happening and wiping out the people. And so Aaron, in doing this sacrament to atone on behalf of the people's sins, is able to stop the plague from killing everyone. And as he stands between the dead and the living, the plague ceases. So I think the significance of him getting in between them, think of it like a wave, right? So this plague is going from one side to the other, sweeping over the people. But Aaron, because of his incredibly holy position, as well as the act of atonement he has done, is almost like, kind of like a seawall for the wave of plague that's about to hit the people. And so it stops before him. And the people beyond him are all now saved. But nonetheless, 14,700 people are killed because of this entire fiasco, in addition to those who died with Korach. So it's definitely not a great day for the people. With this, the plague has been solved, stopped. Aaron returns to the tent of meeting. Now on to the fifth portion, chapter 17, verse 16. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and take from them a staff for each father's house from all the chieftains according to their fathers' houses, a total of 12 staffs, and inscribe each man's name on his staff. Inscribe Aaron's name on the staff of Levi, for there is only one staff for the head of their fathers' houses. You shall place the staffs in the tent of meeting before the ark of testimony, where I commune with you. The staff of the man whom I will choose will blossom, and I will calm down from myself the complaints of the children of Israel which they are complaining against you." Moses spoke to the children of Israel, and all their chieftains gave him a staff for each chieftain according to their fathers' houses, a total of 12 staffs, and Aaron's staff was amidst their staffs. Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of testimony. And on the following day Moses came to the tent of testimony, and behold, Aaron's staff for the house of Levi had blossomed. It gave forth blossoms, sprouted buds, and produced ripe almonds. Moses took out all the staffs from before the Lord to the children of Israel. They saw and they took each man his staff. Thus concludes the fifth portion. So taking a look at that situation, this is now how the Lord has already settled the rebellion side, but there's also an understanding that the grievances that brought forth the rebellion are not gone. There's still the concern of hegemony. Who has really got the authority to be the holy people? And so this is the solution. The Lord says, we're going to go ahead and solve this once and for all. All 12 tribes give me a staff. Put the name of each person on each staff so I know who's who, and Aaron, you will be the representative of the tribe of Levi. They put the staffs inside of the holy area, and then the next day when they return, the staff of Levi, Aaron's staff, is the one that has blossomed and bloomed, thus affirming, these are the holy people. It's been decided. Now you all know. The Lord has spoken. That's that. So now moving on to the sixth portion, chapter 17, verse 25 of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. The Lord said to Moses, "Put Aaron's staff in front of the testimony as a keepsake and a sign for rebellious ones. Then their complaints against me will end and they will not die." Moses did so. He did just as the Lord had commanded him. The children of Israel spoke to Moses, saying, "Behold, we are dying. We will perish. We are all lost. Whoever comes the closest to the Mishkan of the Lord dies. Have we been consigned to die?" Chapter 18, verse 1. The Lord said to Aaron, "You, your sons, and your father's house shall bear the iniquity associated with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear the iniquity associated with your kehunah. Also your brethren, the tribe of Levi, your father's tribe, draw close to you, and they shall join you and minister to you, and your sons with you, before the tent of testimony. They shall keep your charge, and the charge of the tent, and they shall not approach the holy vessels or the altar, so that neither they nor you will die. They shall join you, and they shall keep the charge of the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. They shall keep the charge of the sanctuary and the charge of the altar, so that there be no more wrath against the children of Israel. I have therefore taken your brethren, the Levites, from among the children of Israel. They are given to you as a gift, and given over to the Lord to perform the service in the tent of meeting. And you and your sons shall keep your kehunah in all matters concerning the altar, and concerning what is within the dividing screen. And you shall serve the service as a gift I have given your kehunah, and any outsider, non-Kohen, who approaches shall die. The Lord told Aaron, "Behold, I have given you the charge of my gift offerings. I have thus given you all the holy things of the children of Israel for distinction, and as an eternal portion for your sons. These shall be yours from the holiest of holies, from the fire all their offerings, their meal offerings, their sin offerings, their guilt offerings, and what they return to me. They shall be holy of holies to you and to your sons. You shall eat it in the holiest of places. Any male may eat of it. It shall be holy to you. This shall be yours, what is set aside for their gifts from all the wavings of the children of Israel. I have given them to you, and to your sons and to your daughters with you, as an eternal portion. Any ritually clean member of your household may eat it. The choice of the oil and the choice of the wine and grain, the first of which they give to the Lord, to you I have given them. The first fruit of all that grows in their land, which they shall bring to the Lord, shall be yours. Any ritually clean member of your household may eat of it. Any devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Every first issue of the womb of any creature, which they present to the Lord, whether of man or beast, shall be yours. However, you shall redeem the firstborn of man, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. Its redemption shall be performed from the age of a month according to the valuation 5 shekels of silver, according to the holy shekel, which is 20 gerahs. However, a firstborn ox or firstborn sheep or a firstborn goat shall not be redeemed, for they are holy. Their blood shall be sprinkled on the altar, and their fat shall be burned as a fire offering, as a pleasing fragrance to the Lord. Their flesh shall be yours, like the breast of the waving and the right thigh, it shall be yours. All the gifts of the holy offerings, which are set aside by the children of Israel for the Lord, I have given to you, and to your sons and daughters with you, as an eternal portion. It is like an eternal covenant of salt before the Lord, for you and your descendants with you. The Lord said to Aaron, You shall not inherit in their land, and you shall have no portion among them. I am your inheritance and portion among the children of Israel. All right, so that's the end of the 6th portion. So it begins with the Lord telling Moses to put that staff as a keepsake and as a reminder, a sign for anyone who ever wants to rebel ever again in the future. Never forget, the Lord has spoken on this matter. And also, because of this, they will no longer make those complaints toward me, and therefore they won't die. And so Moses obeys. Then the children are freaking out, and they're saying, Behold, we're dying, we will perish, we are all lost. Whoever comes closest to the Mishkan of the Lord dies. Have we been consigned to die? And so these people have basically awakened to the reality of this is not something they should ever do again, nor is it something that they should ever let themselves get caught up with in the future. Then moving on, we hear the specific promise being made to Aaron. So what's being said here in short is that Aaron and his sons have been designated the head of the tribe of Levi, and that the tribesmen will draw close to them, join him and minister, and then, of course, fulfill their charges with the tent. So basically all of the assignments we had talked about in previous chapters about taking care of the holy vessels, setting up, tearing down, but making sure not to approach the vessels or the altar. So we're talking about the assembly of the tent and moving it, but then not going to the places that are only for Aaron and his sons, so that neither they nor you will die. Because basically, God has also said, you're not only taking on the responsibility, but you're also taking on their iniquity. So if they fail to do what they're supposed to do, that's going to fall on you just as much as you need to be doing your job. And so, additionally, they're going to be in charge of maintaining things with you, and as long as they do so, there will be no more wrath against the children of Israel. And the Levites have been elevated, but he says that I've given them to you and given them over to the Lord to perform these services. So basically, he's making sure that Aaron and his sons have staff to handle the additional tasks that will allow them to keep facilitating the various important tasks of the Cohen. And then from there, they're going to continue doing their jobs, and the other Levites will once again do the other jobs. Now, beyond that, we also have an affirmation that of the offerings made to the Lord, the choicest of them are to be for the Kohanim, so they will be able to take from the offerings what they need to sustain themselves. They're going to do so in holy places, and any of the males that are holy, as well as the daughters dwelling among them still, they may partake in the food. This is the holy oil, the holy wine, the holy grain, the holy meat. And then we also find out that all the firstborns are to be redeemed, right? So the firstborns are now promised over to the Lord and thus also promised to the Kohanim, but the firstborn humans must be redeemed for that first month. At the age of 1 month, they're going to be redeemed for 5 shekels. And then if it's an ox, sheep, or goat, it will not be redeemed. Those animals are holy, and their blood will be sprinkled on the altar, as well as their fats burned, and so on. So with that in mind, we get the exception to the rule, but otherwise it's being made clear the gift offerings that are made for the Lord, of that the Kohanim shall partake, because you are not going to receive the land of Israel. You will dwell among the people there, but you will not receive a portion of the land. Instead, you will live throughout the different places of your fellow tribes, but you yourself will not have your own lands to call yours. This is your inheritance and your portion among the children of Israel. Now we move on to the final portion for this week, 7th portion, chapter 18, verse 21. And to the descendants of Levi I have given all tithes of Israel as an inheritance, in exchange for their service which they perform, the service of the tent of meeting. The children of Israel shall therefore no longer approach the tent of meeting, lest they bear sin and die. The Levites shall perform the service of the tent of meeting, and they will bear the iniquity. It is an eternal statute for your generations. But among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. For the tithes of the children of Israel, which they shall set aside for the Lord as a gift, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. Thus I have said to them that they shall have no inheritance among the children of Israel. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Levites and tell them, when you take the tithe from the children of Israel, which I have given you from them as your inheritance, you shall set aside from it a gift for the Lord, a tithe of the tithe. Your gift shall be considered for you as grain from the threshing floor, and as the produce of the vat. So shall you set aside a gift for the Lord from all the tithes you take from the children of Israel, and you shall give thereof the Lord's gift to Aaron the priest. From all your gifts you shall set aside every gift of the Lord, from its choicest portion, that part of it which is to be consecrated. Say to them, when you separate its choicest part, it shall be considered for the Levites as produce from the threshing floor, and as produce from the vat. You and your household may eat it anywhere, for it is your wage for you in exchange for your service in the tent of meeting. After you separate the choicest part from it, you shall not bear any sin on account of it, but you shall not profane the sacred offerings of the children of Israel, so that you shall not die. All right, and there we go with the final portion. So once again, we just get a further elaboration on what is designated as the portion for the Levites. They are going to basically the tithe or the offerings. So think of it like these are the administrators in the holy office. These are the government, right? So the tithe is being given to the Lord is basically like a tax. So the tax is used to compensate the Levites. That is what they will sustain themselves with. They are receiving the tax from the people, the tithe. So they collect the taxes as what is their payment in compensation for what they do. And then among that tax, yet a further taxation. So a tithe of a tithe. So if the tithe is 10%, then 10% of those taxes go to the Kohanim, directly to Aaron and his sons, so that it goes all the way up, and also like the choicest parts will be given up and of course consecrated for the Lord. It's very important to remember that ultimately their job is to do all these things on behalf of the Lord and to atone on behalf of the people of Israel. And so remember, all the children of Israel, do not approach the tent of meeting lest you bear your sin and die. This is the job of the Levites. You take care of that job. But again, a portion of the tax, a portion of that tithe is set aside for the Lord, and that will be for the high priests as a gift to them. And then, of course, also this will be basically making sure everybody's well compensated. But don't forget, there will not be anything but this for the Levites. This is their promised portion. The rest of the people will receive land and all that comes with it. Now, regarding the choicest part, it says, after you've separated the choicest part, you shall not bear any sin on account of it, but you shall not profane the sacred offerings of the children of Israel, so that you shall not die. So basically, these are sacred offerings, right? Even if it's your compensation, even if these are the taxes that you're collecting, these are holy taxes. So don't even think about profaning them, lest you die for doing something to something that is sacred. So just making sure people don't forget their place at all levels of the ancient Israeli government. So with that, we come to the conclusion of Parashat Korach. This is a very, very prominent portion, particularly because we see the culmination of rebellion, that people are finally said, they're taking it out on Moses and Aaron. We've had enough, and we're going to take things into our own hands. Give us the power. You shouldn't be the one in charge, or more importantly, what makes you think you should be in charge of us? Now we know for certain the answer is the Lord God himself has spoken. Beyond that, after this all happens, we get this further affirmation of the duties and the designation of who really is the high priest class, who are the Levites and what their portion is, and everything associated with that. So the whole sections really are very well connected to one another, very related, and as we can see, ranging from who should really be the boss of these people, who should really be in charge of the holy sacraments, down to, okay, now that we know who they are, this is what their assignment and portion is, now that we've got that all squared away. A very, very informative portion, and definitely a reminder for all generations to come, do not ever question the designation of who is the holy people of the holy people. Until next time, this has been Shmuel Moshe with the Weekly Parashahcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll tune in once again. But until then, as always, Baruch Hashem.